in the next couple of chapters, he needs to make like a sizable donation to her camp. And he can even reference it and be like, I know you were upset during that dinner. So this is my way of making up for it. Like you were upset that there was $1,000 burger. Well, here's $1 million.
Welcome to the story. It's story time with Skye. You can fall in love and laugh until you cry. It's story time with Skye. It's story time with Skye.
Welcome to Storytime with Skye. I'm your host, New York Times bestselling author Skye Warren. Every week, I tell a brand new story based on the heroes, heroines, and meet-cutes that you want to hear about. I bring on some of my favorite romance authors as guests to help me craft a hilarious, steamy, and ultimately romantic story with a guaranteed happily ever after. So pour a glass of something fun. Welcome to the story. Hi, everyone. I'm Skye Warren. This is Storytime with Skye, and I'm here with Amanda Richardson, who writes from her chaotic dining room table in Yorkshire, England, often distracted by her husband and two adorable sons. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really good. Because you're in England, it's like late there.
It's late. So we'll see. We'll see what kinds of crazy unhinged ideas I can come up with. So.
The more unhinged, the better, really, for this purpose here. And so you do write contemporary and some dark and twisted romance, yeah?
Yes, and also paranormal. So really anything could happen at this point. All cards are on the table. So
what drew you to like dark type books in the first place?
I think just reading them.
Yeah.
I'm a big reader. I read a lot of romance. And I hadn't like written anything dark. I've been writing since 2015. But my books were like sweeter and like wholesome. And then I think it was Den of Vipers that I read. And I was like, oh, that would be fun to write. And I was already writing Reverse Harem. So, or Why Choose? So, I was just like, that would be like a really fun experiment. And I absolutely loved it. And it was hard though, getting into that mindset a little bit. And I had to take a break, but I'm excited to go back in the world next year. So,
yeah, I find Why Choose challenging, and even just like MFM or like threesome type romance is hard because of like keeping track of everyone.
Yeah.
I can frankly barely keep track of two people. I just have one person.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I don't know. I had to take a break. So this year I've just been writing male female. And I think I'd like to do like dark male female romance next year or the year after. So
yeah.
Why Choose is fun. It's just, it is a lot to keep track of. So
yeah. All right. We are going to write a story today. It could be Why Choose. It could not be Why Choose. It's whatever we want it to be.
You never know. Yeah.
You do not ever know. We have kind of like starting points. They're jumping off points. They're choose your own adventure points, but we can do whatever we want outside of that. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and then you're going to tell me like, oh, what I think about that. And then once we have all three, we'll kind of start our story. So the hero is a bartender.
Okay.
What do we think? Have you ever done a bartender before? Have you ever been a bartender before?
I've never been a bartender, but I have been a server.
Some things about drinks and fancy orderings.
Yeah, my husband is a huge cocktail connoisseur, so I feel like I know enough. It's bullshit. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, you're gonna pull the heavy on like knowing about drink things because I don't. I do know.
Sounds good.
Like I know that White Russians exist, and my drink of choice is basically a Shirley Temple. Anyway,
okay, I got this.
I mean, they do look hot behind the bar, and they see everything.
Like shaking the bottle,
shaking
and
the
like
bottle
their muscles,
being really muscular. Plus, I feel like if he's our hero, he probably just like owns the bar as well as bartender.
Yeah, Yes.
So it's kind of like the Lord looking over his domain.
He likes to be on the floor and be in the action.
Exactly. He could pay a bartender. There's obviously other bartenders who probably still work there because he can't work 24/7, but he likes, to be in the action.
Yeah.
Okay. The heroine is, and this, I'm not sure how it's going to play in, but I'm just going to say what it is. A camp counselor.
Okay. Hmm. I can pretty much make anything work. I
I know.
don't,
When I think of counselor, I first think of like as a summer job. So I don't know if it is her
yeah,
when she has a regular job or whether maybe she just owns a camp year round. I don't know.
yeah. Hmm. Maybe it's like, I don't know. I don't write small town romance, but I'm getting like small town romance vibes where he like lived in a city for 15 years and then went back and like bought the bar that his family owned and is now running it. And she's like a local, I don't
Okay.
know.
I like that. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm a sucker for second chance romance. So anytime I see an opening,
Yeah.
guess what? If it is a small town, what if he left to go make his fortune? He made $1 zillion on Wall Street being like a soulless stockbroker and achieved all of his like childhood dreams because like maybe he grew up like in poverty and stuff. And then only to discover that it didn't really fill the hole inside him. And so he's like come back home and bought
Yeah.
the bar that was like a dangerous place or like run down and he's like fixed it up and made it cool.
Yeah. I was going to say he has to be a secret billionaire.
Yes,
I'm getting like secret billionaire vibes.
I will say actually the first thought I had when I saw bartender was bartender at a BDSM club.
Okay.
That was
Yes. Like he would be like the dom or he would run like a
kind of both. Like he
bartend like a bar.
be a dom, but also like you know how I feel like in those kind of series, like the bartender is kind of protective, right? Like he sees what's going on and he would notice if
Yeah.
a girl was being taken advantage of or something like that, he would handle it, which like he would do in his regular bar anyway, regardless of whether
Right.
it's a BDSM club, because I mean, he's hot. So like we want him to be feminist, obviously. Secretly, I
Right.
mean, I'm like, he can come on too strong to her. It's like, it's very complicated. We're not going to get into it. Anyway, okay. And then the last item we get, so we have a hero and heroine. And then the last item we get is that there are class differences, which is actually not as specific as we
Okay.
sometimes get. We've gotten really specific ones, but that is.
Okay.
Oh, you know what though?
Hmm.
You know what I just really thought of? Like, what if we go into the city? Is that where you set most of your books in a city?
In a city, yeah. I don't write small town.
Because I think in small town, it's like harder to do class differences. I mean, the whole point is that like everyone's
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, if that's a big theme of the book, it may have to be like a big city bar and he runs the bar and he is a bartender on the floor sort of with his employees because obviously it's like a bustling like hustle bustle and she is from a small town and is running some sort of camp in the city.
how do you feel about like writing BDSM?
Oh, I'm that's my series right now is the first book is called Pray Tell because it's primal play and BDSM.
Okay.
I am comfortable enough.
Okay. Because like the thing is, yeah, I still like the idea that he goes off, makes his fortune, becomes a zillionaire, then decides, you know, the whole stockbroker life is not for me. Instead, I want to own this club and I will lord over it from the bar. And, you know, even as like my Dom buddies find love, like not me, I'll never fall, you know, etc.
Right.
And but what if, because like I mean, my first thought with camp counselor is was country, but what if it's not? What if it's like inner city camp?
Yeah, and I feel like maybe they have a little bit of a past. You were saying the second chance, you know? Like maybe they're from the same small town.
And what if I like the
And my
idea?
mind instantly went to like her father's best friend, but like that's the trope that I'm writing right now. So like I think I'm just like in that age gap, like forbidden,
Oh
you
my
know.
God, I am actually down for it. I love an age gap.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I love the idea of her being like an inner city camp counselor, because it, first of all, it makes sense that it's like a full time year round job, right? Like it's, you know,
Yeah.
well, what I was saying is it's like after school camp, like a place for,
Yeah.
you know, that's safe after school. And I think it would really highlight like the differences between them because maybe her father was also a super rich stockbroker and she rejected that life. You know what I mean? She like donated her trust fund. Her father was like super pissed about it. and just
She's like a
donated her.
bleeding heart. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that. But then what about her mom? Like with her mom, because to live in a small town, I'm thinking maybe it was like a, one night stand. Her father never like abandoned her, but she just didn't really want anything to do with him because he was just like this like high roller in the city, and her mom, I don't know.
Tough one.
Now I feel like it's getting too convoluted.
The question is, if they both came from a small town, like why did they both come to the city? That's like for separate reasons, I mean, it could just be like the
Yeah.
closest city. Like it doesn't have to be like that they both went from like Idaho to New York City. They could have just been like
Right.
a city in Idaho, which who knows what that is unless you live in Idaho. I'm sorry, Idaho. Anyway, okay. So what if she knows him? He has the BDSM club. They did know each other. She's kind of close to her dad, not close, just like she's not broken up with him. What if she goes to like ask for money for her camp or something, and that's how she meets him again?
Yeah. I think that could work. I was also going to say maybe she's even like living with her dad in the city.
Mm.
And so has met the friend once that way.
Yeah.
I feel like it would need to be the prologue. The prologue would be like them meeting and she like comes down in like her pajamas or something and he's there. I don't know.
No, I love it. And
she's just right off the bat like, no, he's just a rich dude and not my type. He's hot.
Right.
But like, no, like that's not like I go for like my fellow camp counselors who are working minimum wage and like we don't care about money and like,
her living with her dad is interesting to me. Like, I like it. I think it increases the tension of the dad finding out that they're going to be in a relationship. But I also think it's kind of tricky with her trying to be like, I do everything for like charity and everything. But then again, if she doesn't live with her dad, she has to pay rent in like a super high price city. So it's complicated.
Yeah. And then you'd have to come up with like a whole backstory about like if she was saving for her own place and like didn't like living with him. And I feel like it just gets complicated.
You know what I like is if we just say she is living with her dad and it's because she wants to have a better relationship with him. Because maybe she didn't. He was working all the time. She was like going to school and now that she's grown up and has this job, she wants to get to know him better. And he's like, sure, okay. I feel like that adds even more tension to her eventually getting with the friend because then it jeopardizes her growing relationship with her dad.
Oh yeah, like ups the stakes. That's true. I like that.
Okay, so she's hanging out, just being like, trying to get to know her dad better. It's maybe like not going that super well, but she's trying. It's important.
Yeah.
Obviously, togetherness is important to her. For her to be a camp counselor,
right.
He's like trying to get to know her dad in the city and all of that.
Yeah.
So they meet in this prologue. It's like a saucy moment where she's like underdressed and he's going to be overdressed. He's like wearing a full 3-piece suit because he just stopped by to like pick up a document on his way to some sort of important business meeting. And then she'll help him look for it in her father's office because he's not home. And he'll like unfortunately notice when she like bends over and then,
Yes, what he smells like. He smells really good. They always smell really good. She's like, I don't care because the cologne is probably more than I make in a month.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really condone like I think that could be a major wrench in like her relationship with her father. Like she's trying to understand him and she's trying to get close to him, but when your value system is so different, it's kind of like how can you connect?
Yeah.
And that's the same problem she would have with the hero, which like is hashtag how daddy issues work,
Right. Yeah. And then, she's, I don't know, would this bar be like, would it be like a fancy bar? Would it just be like kind of like, I feel like it would almost be more surprising if he bought this bar that had like, I feel like I throw ideas around and I don't know if they make sense, but he has this bar and he buys it and he wants to like actually be there because little does she know, he's like, not doing the whole Wall Street thing anymore, but still has a ton of money. She just is surprised to see him there. And he's still wearing like a button up shirt, but like the sleeves are rolled up, while he's like doing the bar. And she's like, what are you doing here? I don't know. I feel like that might be too soon.
No, I do like it. So I like the bar being kind of swanky just because of I
It
don't even
makes more sense.
enjoy the
It
beginning,
makes more sense.
but I think it emphasizes the class differences. But I
Yeah.
think what's really compelling about it is that even as she goes in and it feels all foreign to her because this is not how she lives, it's not how she's ever lived. I think the truth is that underneath it all, he also cares about togetherness because otherwise he wouldn't have bought a bar.
Right. I feel like he can sort of like when she enters, he knows that she's there because I feel like the heroes always know. And so he like sets her up in like the nicest booth, sends her like nice liquor, a nice drink. I don't
Oh,
know. And then she's like offended. I don't know.
okay, what if this is funny? What if she's looking for corporate sponsor? Because here's this thing like that has just occurred to me every so often, not like often, but like, you know how kids who have like swim clubs, swim tracks meets or whatever, like they ask for sponsors, right? And
Mm,
oftentimes like a small business, like a dry cleaner will be like, yeah, we'll sponsor you in exchange for like this
right.
advertising or whatever. Technically, like we as writers, like we're small businesses, right? Like we could sponsor something like that. But obviously we could not be like, but look at our romance books. Like we couldn't, label it that way. Uh,
Right.
what if she's like talking with her dad? She can't help but ask her dad, like, oh, what is your friend doing like now? Like she can't help but ask about him because she's so intrigued by him and the way he looks.
Right.
Her dad says, oh, yeah, he still has a great portfolio and all, but he's like super obsessed with his new venture. And she's like, oh, new venture. And she's like, yeah, he owns a club. So ridiculous, like it's not even the most profitable thing he could be doing. Like maybe a bar could still support. I mean, a bar is not like the most wholesome thing, but it still could potentially like a pub could potentially sponsor this camp and give them some money. And so she goes there with this hope, this idea. But I mean, maybe it's a little bit just an excuse to see him, but in her head, she
Right.
has this idea. And only when she gets there does she realize it's a sex club. Like she has,
Oh,
and her dad is like, why would
I
you take?
like that.
And so then she's all like fish out of water.
Yeah. But still very curious. And she maybe rejects it the first time and is like, no,
Right.
like, this is not like my jam. Like, I'm not this. Like, this is a whole other world. And maybe it even like causes her to like rethink like why she's in the city and why she's living with her dad and trying for this relationship when like she's just like, I'll never be like that.
Oh,
But
yes.
then she needs to have something needs to like, what do they call it in like the plotting? It's like the trigger or not the trigger. Is it the trigger?
Turning
Or like
point.
something turning point, maybe, yeah, where like they think
No, I
something
really,
happens to make them think differently.
because we're doing class differences and we're doing this fish out of water thing. So of course she's going to think, look, this is all too much. This is all the opposite of what I am. And therefore, what am I even doing here? I love all of that. And her sort of running away. But before she runs away, I did have a thought about her being there. I really want one of the doms to like approach her just in a totally like respectful but flirty way. And
Mm-hmm.
for the hero to be like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? And he sees women get picked up all the time. Like that's sort of the point of the club. And
Yeah.
completely fine with it. And he knows this is a good guy. It's probably like his friend, aka the hero of book two. And so it's not like the guy is inherently bad, but he's like already possessive, you know?
Yes.
Like I may not have,
Yeah. And
but no, she can't belong to anyone else.
right. And I think in his point of view, obviously, he's going to say, like in his first point of view, maybe he'll kind of be like, well, it's because she's, my friend's daughter and she's, she is out of her element here. And then,
He could even do that thing where he's like, because I want them. I mean, if there's ever going to be a sex club, there's going to be like a group of doms who are all hot, right? And single to begin with.
Right.
And I want him to like tell his friend, like, she's off limits, like to all of you. And him be like, why are you being like this? And make him say it out loud because she's a friend. She's a daughter of one of my friends and she's too young for you guys. And he could be like, too young. I mean, she's what, like, I don't even know. She probably went to college and graduated. So she's at least like 22, 24, something like that. To be like, she's
Yeah.
not, we have women like that all the time in here, and you have never had a problem with that. And
Mm,
like, confront a little bit, just briefly to himself, like, why would I have a problem with it with her and no one else?
right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like what would make her change her mind. Like she needs some sort of like instigating moment where
Hmm. So
because we're like going into it now. We're sort of plotting it out at this point, right? Like we're
yes.
not like okay.
Yeah. Like, no, I think you're right. That's exactly the next step. There has to be something that turns her around. So is it
Yeah.
her own desires, or, you know what I mean? Like she was so curious by what she saw. Does it have to do with the camp itself? Like it's sudden something goes wrong. There's a little fire. No, let's save that for later.
I was gonna say he needs to come to her rescue in like chapter like 9.
I know. That's later. Ooh, what if it's her mom who still lives in the small town and calls her and is like, babe, you've got to get back here. You know, like she's been trying to get back there the whole time. She didn't even approve of this like move. And she's like,
Yeah.
"Get back here, you know, so and so upright sheriff that's your age, not sheriff then, he would be like a deputy or something, is just waiting for you to get married and have babies and like have that whole life."
Yeah.
And she just thinks to herself, like, oh my God, part of me always knew, like, her mom's, this is not the first time her mom has said it, but she's like, I could actually live that life without ever knowing what it's like to really live and to really like be one of those girls at the sex club who like tried everything, you know?
Maybe. Yeah. And maybe her mom like compares her to like another girl from their small town and was like, like Debbie is, she already has 2 kids and like, she seems so happy. And the protagonist is just like, no, that
Mhm.
is not for me. Like that is not what I want to go back to. And then I feel like she'd be thinking about him and the club and maybe do some research.
She could
I don't
definitely
know.
do some research. She could look up, well, she could research 2 things. She could research BDSM in general, which is probably good. And then she could
Yeah.
research like him specifically,
Hmm.
the zillions of dollars he's made, and the little note about how he was taking a step back from his like portfolio and buying this club, and how it kind of would be like titillating in the business world that like one of their own was going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's a very exclusive club, you know.
Right. Naturally. But
Yeah.
then how would she get in the first time?
I know. I think it would have to be like,
Maybe she didn't realize it was like a open night or something.
yeah, or she like used his name, you know, and they were like, "Oh, no,
Yeah.
so on the phone," and he's like, yeah, I do. I'll be right down, you know, and they just like kind of let her wait in the area. And that's how that experience goes.
Yeah. That could work.
Okay.
I
So
feel like,
oh yeah, she's like decided she wants to live for like one night. She's not decided that she'll live in the city forever or that she's even going to go home. Like that's too much of a decision. All she's making is this
right.
decision that for one night, she's going to go experience this. So that if she does go back and live with a deputy, she'll know what it's.
Yeah. I feel like she needs a friend, maybe another camp counselor who's a little more wild than her.
I
And
agree.
maybe the friend just sort of pops in and is like, maybe at this point, the friend is like, what are you waiting for? Like, someone who works at this club. I've been trying to get in for like 2 years.
Yes. Oh, yes. I like that. I like that. And she can be like, come on, like, we'll have a good night out. And
Like, take me. Oh, take me. Like,
exactly.
take me with you. Please take me. And then she just feels like she has to. And it's like, oh, well, I
Yeah.
probably won't even see him.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. It could be because, like, the first time he was upstairs working in the office. So she's like, yeah, he's just going to be wearing his suit in the office. Like, it's not going to be anything. And then they actually go. And, like a little bit of a Cinderella moment with her being like, I'm just going to wear my like very like modest dress. And her friend being like, no, you're going to wear this,
The
$50.
makeovers, they're the best.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they arrive and he's like actually tending bar, which she did not expect. And he's like got his sleeves rolled all the way up. I don't know what.
Like a white
yes.
Oxford shirt. I'm like such a sucker for like a white Oxford shirt.
I mean, I think there's a little bit,
like,
actually, there's a little bit of like competency porn if you're a bartender wearing a white shirt, because it's if you spill.
Right. Maybe she can even comment something like that. Like, that's a really interesting choice for you're mixing all, maybe it's like there's a bunch of like maybe they're doing like something for Pride. And so there's like a bunch of like different colored liquors.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you're brave for doing that. And he's just like, I don't spill. I think of a sexier way to say that.
It's like, it's going to have to be the way he says it.
Yeah. Like that's not the right thing, but he just like looks at her and is just like, that would never happen. I don't spill doesn't work. So
I know
something like that, where it's just like, you have all these like bright colors, like, and you're shaking the thing. And
so I think now that she's there a second time, he's still going to be surprised. Like, it's not like he was expecting to see her, but some of his shock has worn off. So he's going to try to play it cooler. You know what I mean? Last time he was very much like, no one can touch her. Get her out of here. This time he can have told himself. He could have like worked on himself, like she has grown up. If she comes, she is allowed to see people. Doms are allowed to see her. And he has to say that to himself, because the opposite would be admitting that she means more to him.
Mm-hmm. I almost feel like it might be too much to have someone like come on to her again. So maybe it would be the same guy, just sort of like fucking with him. The guy from book 2.
Totally be fucking with him. I also think she has her friend with her. So it could be like 2 guys approach them, or they approach 2 guys, or, you know what I mean? The whole point is to mingle. So end up in conversation.
Right.
I think that could be a good little kind of like moment to learn about the rules of the club. Like, that's the secret back room that he doesn't let anyone in, or you have to be are allowed to go only this far, or whatever. If there's any kind of rules like that you're like laying down in the world, that would be a good
thing. I almost feel like maybe she did a little bit of research, but she's just still a little bit overwhelmed, and her friend is like, I feel like her friend needs to sort of like, I don't know if that's like to like having the friend just sort of push her for everything, like to have like this self like actualization. But maybe her friend is like, oh, well, I don't know. This is always where I get stuck, like in books, where it's like,
I feel like when I get stuck, I like to like go to the heart of it. And I feel like at the heart of it, part of what the heroine is doing by working at this camp where she has some good times, but she also gets to see a lot of sadness, right? Like maybe a kid in a bad situation, she can't do anything about it. And she's tried as much as possible to forego all of the luxuries that she would actually just naturally already can have via her father. So it's like, I think a little bit she's told herself that in order to be a good person, she can't experience nice things, Yeah. Her friend works with her at the camp, so she cares. You don't work at like an inner city camp because like you don't do it for the money. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so like you do it because you care about these kids and about this cause. But her friend still goes after pleasure and like pleasurable activities and things like that. So she's like an interesting contrast where in a way her friend is kind of being, like you said, a little bit maybe pushy, a little bit like not the most like sensitive friend to her friend's needs or wishes. But she's also setting an example of someone who's like, hey, we can care about these kids just as much and also have a good time. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Yeah.
I feel like there needs to be like, trying to think, because I've never written like a sex club. In the books that I've read, there's always been like a room.
So what if one of the doms and her friend hits it off, and they decide to do some sort of like light starter play, like maybe over the clothes and like a paddling situation. They're just like light. So
Yeah.
therefore the heroine knows that her friend is safe, basically. Like they're taking it very slow, being careful. Her friend is giggling, having a good time. She knows her friend is safe and she's just sort of wandering around. And that's how she like reconnects with the bartender hero as he's like getting off his shift and like letting one of the other bartenders come on. And he's
Right.
going to say, hey, like you're here to explore this, right? Like they could just come out and say it, right? Like he's like, you're here to explore this. And she's like, no, I don't know if I really am. Like my friend wanted to come, and he's like, no excuses. He uses his Dom voice. You know what I mean? No excuses,
Yeah.
baby girl. And
Maybe he even does the whole thing where he's like, I don't know you that well, but I can tell when you're lying. Sort of like, don't bullshit me.
and I can tell when you're turned on, and you are.
Right.
And
then he can be like, it's my job to know these things. I know all the tells. Textbook.
Tell him on it, like, oh, because you're taking care, watching out for all the subs here, like you're such a Boy Scout. He's like, no, I'm not a Boy Scout. I do things that would, like, you can't even imagine. She can be like, why does everyone treat me like I'm so little? Like, I don't know what I want in life, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, show me then, prove it. And then he takes her to his back room and he does, in fact, prove it.
Yes. But he starts slow. I feel like he has to start slow because he still has the reservations.
Yeah. And I mean, he's still going to do like the best job he's ever done at introducing someone to the lifestyle, essentially.
Right.
Because it matters so much to him that she actually has a good experience and like learns about consent and stuff, because in his head, he's thinking, well, I'm teaching her all of this so she can go sleep with other guys, basically. He's not like, I'm claiming her forever.
I like that. Yeah. Little does he know. Yeah. I feel like after their first sort of light session, he would just say, take the time to really think about this and like do your research and just make sure this is what you want. And then he can like, maybe as she's leaving, he like grabs her and he's just like, because like, I don't fuck around. Like, I don't play games. So if this is not something you want, then you need to stay away.
Yeah. I like the idea of him actually not normally inducting women into the lifestyle. Like he only plays with really experienced.
Yeah. Right.
So he's already making this exception for her. And also I specifically want him to like make her come, but like he doesn't. That's how he's like telling himself that he's not invested.
Right. Yeah. I think that's good. And then he can just assume that she's going to like go off and like never come back.
Yeah. But you know what he can do, actually? You know how they're like try to warn women away sometimes? Like he can sort of like threaten her with a good time accidentally, like he can do a lot of dirty talk. So like when he is like sort of tying her up and like maybe doing a little paddling and making her come, like he is whispering in her words like the most like filthy, moderately degrading stuff, and he's only making her hotter, of course. And part of him knows that. Part of him knows because he wouldn't be doing it if she didn't like it. But the other part of like, oh, I'm showing her how bad I am so she doesn't ever come back. Like that's the lie he's telling.
Like it's so bad that she won't want to come back.
Yeah.
And he thinks she's going to go home and just be like, oh my God, what just happened? Yes. But really she's like, oh my God, I need more of that.
I feel like so I feel like we're about to hit the midpoint, and how I want them to hit is with her dad there.
I was going to say, I feel like the next scene has to be like him coming over to the apartment, maybe for like a dinner. And so they're just like sitting there and they have to like interact in front of her dad. And her dad is like asking him questions.
Like he'll think she's not coming and he'll have probed and he'll think she's not coming and maybe she'll have thought she wasn't coming. Somehow they get roped into it. And it's just,
maybe it's at like a really fancy restaurant and it like highlights the like class differences, you know?
Yes.
And she's just like, this is so dumb. And she sees both him and her dad just like, you know, pulling out their black cards and like ordering the caviar. And she's just like, this is so stupid. Like these kids that I, you know, she's almost, what is it? See, I don't plot. I feel like I'm a really like intuitive, like plotter. So I don't know the actual names, but there's a name for the plot point where the very last time she goes back to like her hesitations. And I forget what it's called.
I don't know.
But it can be the last hesitation where she's just like, you know, but then at the end of the dinner, she can kind of be alone with him and he can sort of just do something like really like dommy. I know that's not a word, but you know, it's just like, I hope you've been like, he says it sort of like out of the blue, like, I hope you've been like, these are the things I have to like ruminate on because like the dirty talk does not come supernaturally to me. So it's almost like what would he say? Like, what's that one like hooky line that he would say that people are going to highlight?
You should have like a WWTBD. What would Tessa Bailey do? Actually, I guess it would be WTBW. What would Tessa Bailey write?
Yes.
She's such a queen at it. No, I know. So I think I agree with you like completely. She is at this dinner. It's a kind of ridiculous place where like, I remember there was like, I don't even know, like 100 or 1,000, probably $1,000 burger or something ridiculous that just had, you know, like caviar, whatever, super fancy stuff, gold leaf. And she's like, it doesn't matter even if they eat it. They probably did not order that in particular. They just order whatever they like to eat. But the fact that it's even on the menu, she's going to be like, look at this. I mean, these people are spending this kind of money. They could have just had random food and all of that money could have helped the kids, you know? And so it could be like a wrench between them, basically. Like, this is proof. The fact that he's so chummy with my father, the fact that they're the same age. Oh, you know what they're going to do is like make some sort of reference to like how old they are, you know, like date themselves. I don't even see, but like something, remember when? And then it's going to just like highlight that she's literally in a different generation than him. And
yeah, I'm doing a lot of that in my current work in progress. And it's really fun to sort of like research all the Gen Z lingo because I'm a millennial. So like, I don't know what half this stuff is. But no, I think in the next couple of chapters, he needs to make like a sizable donation to her camp. And he can even reference it and be like, you know, I know you were upset during that dinner. So this is my way of making up for it. Like you were upset that there was $1,000 burger. Well, here's $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, like 1,000 times the burger.
Exactly. Oh, yes. Yes. So, well, first they're going to bang. Probably either like the restaurant, like a lot of fancy restaurants are.
I was going to say.
So like, not that they would get a hotel room, but just like, well, they could actually.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking more like, you know, in the fancy hallways of a like banquet area or whatever, where it's dark and there's not an event happening. Like they just sort of find an unoccupied room, but the atmosphere is still very glam. So they make out. He's very dommy. For sure, because he held back. That's the thing. He's got like blue balls right now, right? Because however many nights ago it was that she came to the club and he made her come and he didn't come. And now she doesn't know this, but he is abstaining. Right. So he's like dying.
Yeah. And I feel like he can almost sort of be angry with her too. And just like, you know, wherever they do the banging, he can just be like, you know, is this what you want? When he's like choking her, not choking her, but like he maybe like just like presses her against the wall and is like, but then in my research of doing like the BDSM research, I know that's not actually how they act. So I don't want him to be like a bad dom, but I feel like he has to be like, we need a safe word now. And this is what it is. And
what if
he can just agree?
Is like, oh shit, let me think about it for a second. So I really liked in Deanna Snow's book, Claim. This is not really, it's like a tiny bit of a spoiler, but not really, because I think it happens pretty early. But her safe word, because she's really against like commitment and stuff, because her parents had a terrible marriage. So her safe word is marriage. Because it's like her biggest fear, basically. So like, what if her safe word was like, I don't know. related, or it could just be like red, green, yellow, because that's very BDSM club.
Yeah. Like the town she grew up in, maybe.
Oh, that's so good. Like she says it, like, and
That could,
it sort of means I want out. You know what I mean? Of this whole lifestyle.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going
Yeah.
with Fairfield. I don't know why. It just feels like what it should be, and we're gonna go with it. So
Perfect.
Fairfield is her safe word, and it's the town where they both came from, and it means different things to both of them.
And I feel like because he's gone so long, he's just sort of like feral and like very like get on your knees right now sort of
Exactly.
thing.
Like I'm fine with him being a safe enough dom to like give her the safe words and stuff, but when they're actually doing it, I want him to be absolutely feral.
Yeah. And he's going to sort of like punish her. I'm
Yeah.
all about like the punishment.
You know,
My
like
readers, they were just like, you're so good at like the punishment. Like you make, I was like, because I love that. It's almost like full circle because, she didn't want to. And then she like weaseled her way into this. And then he was just like snapped and was like, fine,
yeah.
but I'm going to punish you for it. And I love that moment. Like, it's my favorite moment to read in books. So it's like,
You know what he was also punishing her for? Like, what if he brings up the first time he met her and he was like, you were wearing those short shorts and
mhm,
I couldn't touch you, like, and you were just prancing around making my dick hard. Is that what you like? You know?
mhm, yeah,
And she could be sort of like whimpering and admit, like, yes, she did like it.
right. Yeah. And then I think obviously lots and lots of sex. Where would they leave it after that? He would probably be like, well, you're mine now. So no dating.
I know. Okay, what if they do that thing where this is like a good interim? Because like neither one is ready to sort of like commit. But what if they do that thing like, look, we obviously can't. Oh, maybe it's a close call. Maybe the father comes wandering around looking for, maybe he thought like the daughter left and he thought his friend was just going to go chase after like a waitress or something. And he goes looking,
Mhm,
they're almost caught by the dad.
right. Oh,
So,
maybe they're in the stall. They're in like this, the stall of the bathroom, a nice bathroom with like marble counters and stuff. And like they're in like the men's room because that's just where he pulls her into. And her dad, she like hears her dad
yeah.
come in
And
and like, hey, like, hero's name, like, are you in here? And
right,
she's just like, what the fuck? And he has to like cover her mouth.
right. Because you know how some of them will have like locks. So he locks the door. So
Yeah.
some guy can't come in. And maybe some random guy does try to come in, but he can't get in. And
Right.
she wouldn't have been that freaked out about some random guy just like knocking and being like, hey, I have to use the restroom. But the fact that it's her dad is like, yeah,
Right.
exactly. And he goes away and the forbiddenness of it. I love it.
Yeah. And then he like says something like, now I have to go out there and like talk to your dad, who is my best friend,
With your
with
son.
like cum stains on their pants.
So yes. Okay, what if he then proposes, like, listen, you obviously want to learn about BDSM, he says, like not acknowledging their major connection at all.
Right.
And that's a really interesting thing to me about like a lot of BDSM romance, Doms in particular, because I think all romance is about like the character arc is often about someone learning something about themselves that they didn't know before. But in this
Right.
of like a Dom, it's like they're setting the terms. So he's trying to be like this
Hmm.
older, wiser teacher role to her, when in reality, he's in denial to himself about his feelings right now.
Right.
He's going to be like, well, listen, you're trying to learn about BDSM. I'm just enjoying the ride and I like to be helpful. What can I say? So, I mean, he doesn't say it like that, but that's. And
Yes.
he's like, I propose that we go out to, I don't know where, some fancy beach resort or a cottage or just somewhere. We get away from basically like being caught by your father, right? Like we know this isn't for real life.
Yeah.
We know that this is not like, if we do things at the club, her dad, it might get back to her dad because like they run in the same circles. If she lives with her dad, so they can't meet there, like it's
Yeah.
like, what if you remove them from
So
and to like allow them to really get intimate and take down their defenses?
it also allows for like the like wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the wealth Universal Fantasy, where
Yeah.
he's just like, meet me at the, I don't know whatever the airport is in New York, not New York City. We're just meet me at the airport. And it's not going to be the biggest airport because private
And he's
jets
gonna have
can
like a
fly from anywhere.
which is already offensive to her, right? I think he did he already send the gift? I think he has to already have sent the gift to the
Oh, yes.
I think
Yeah, I think that should probably happen before.
yeah, I think so too. Maybe it happens in the interim. Like they make this sort of plan. She goes back to like, live for another few days. She's like, I can't leave right away. Like we don't have a sub immediately. And my commitment is to the camp above all. And so like
And she gets like pulled into the office and maybe they're like, and she thinks she's like getting fired because they found out she went to a sex club or something. Like she's like not sure what the meeting is for. And they're just like, we received this like massive sum of money in a donation from, maybe that can like lead into
her getting a
the travel
sub.
chapter.
Like exactly.
Yeah.
Like he's like, come away with me just for like a week, whatever. And she's like, I can't. Like it's just me and my one friend who work at this camp with all these kids. Like there's no money for more counselors. We barely have enough money for like crayons and stuff and for rent. Like it's not going to happen. And the money comes in and it's like earmarked for more camp counselors.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, and her boss can be like, oh, thank God, we are hiring people. You can finally take a vacation. And she's like, what? No, I don't want a vacation. And she's like, well, you should take one. Like, it'll be better for the kids if you take one. And so anyway, she has no more excuses. She's like, fine, I will go on this vacation with you.
Right. And then I think it like starts out as like, I'm like imagining like the Hamptons maybe, or somewhere where it's like they can like have like a beach getaway.
A beach. I love a beach. But like, obviously if you're wealthy and you're near a beach, you also have an infinity pool. I mean,
right.
And a hot tub. Right.
Yes. I feel like there's like 3 separate sex scenes there between like him like making them breakfast and like how he tells her like I never I feel like it's cliche, but people love cliche where he's just like, I'm never around in the morning to make breakfast. So I'm here and I might as well do it.
Yeah, he likes to do things like that, but he just doesn't. I mean, he has to like them, right? Because he likes to mix drinks. So, yeah. I mean, mixing drinks is pretty similar to cooking. Not the same, obviously.
Right. Yeah, maybe he likes doing stuff with his hands. Like he's just very like...
Oh, she can be surprised because like her dad has never cooked breakfast in his life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And he can just be a guy who like never even ate breakfast. So he's like, I would just never cook breakfast. I never cook at all. And so he just, even now that she's a grown up, he just has coffee and leaves. And so and she still sort of thinks of this guy as being like her dad, even though he's sort of a little bit left that life. And so the fact that she wakes up one morning and there's like a full spread is like a complete shock to her. And she can call him on it. Like, why, what? Did you cook all this or did you buy it from somewhere? And he's like, why are you so surprised I can cook?
Right.
And
yeah, I like that.
You don't know me that well, but you're going to,
Yeah. And then I think they need to have like, at this point, they need to have like a heart to heart over breakfast. Like they need to have like, sort of like, this weekend has been great. Maybe they're leaving later that day and they're just like, we don't want to, he's just like, I don't necessarily think we should leave it how we've left it. I think we need to make it more official. I guess it depends on like how BDSM we're getting. Cause I'm like, maybe he could like collar her at some point. I'm like, that's like in my mind. That might be a little too far.
Well, he's only going to do one of two things. He's either going to claim her or he's going to get spooked and he's going to run away.
Right. I don't know. I guess it just depends on like how much of a third act breakup we want.
So controversial right now. What do you think about third act breakups? Because I have opinions.
I really like them. I really like them.
Because like the thing is, if you know for sure going into a book that there's no third act breakup, then basically what you're saying is there's no risk.
There's no conflict at the end.
No risk. There's no stakes. You're just reading like one long epilogue because there's no chance they'll ever break.
Right. And I think you need that sort of like it's not the actual like breaking up. It's like what happens after when he grovels. I love reading a good grovel because I just feel like it's so important to like the romance genre.
You know what? I love reading grovels. I struggle writing them. I'm not saying I don't write them or whatever, because I do, but I just, it doesn't come easily for me. I don't know why. I think it's because like they're just so alpha in my head that like it's hard for me to get them humbled for like
Yeah.
enough. You know what I mean? Like they can definitely do it for a short time, but I feel like a great grovel, especially for a big screw up, needs to be long.
Yeah. And I
I
think with like billionaire romance too, because that's what I'm writing right now, it's like so easy to like throw money at something,
Mm.
whereas like, a good grovel is not necessarily financial. It can be, but
And in this case, like he already kind of did that. So he's used
right.
that up. I don't think that can be the answer again.
Yeah. And she wouldn't appreciate it if he did. So, but like, I think that fire we were talking about at the camp, or maybe there's like, I'm trying to think of like what would happen in a city.
Okay, so I like him doing both, actually claiming her, being like, hey, so we're heading back into town today. I've made you breakfast again. Like, we're still going to keep this like casual, as in, I'm not ready to like claim you in front of the world, because he can also have feelings about like his age difference and like whether he's right for her. Like, I feel like I see older men in age gaps, or even older women in age gaps, like, think about that. Like, they think they can
Right.
convince themselves that they're doing the other person a favor by not claiming them at that point. Like that person is going to change their mind, obviously. And I don't want to
Yeah.
permanent down. But he can also think to himself, like, I would go absolutely insane if anyone else touches her right now. So he can just be like, how about we make it official? Like, how about we make it exclusive? Not official, exclusive. And
Right.
like, oh, and he's like, yeah, I mean, he can sort of hurt himself at the same time, shoot himself in the foot at the same time as he's like making it happen. He can be like, well, we both know this isn't going anywhere. But like for right now, we're having a good time, aren't we? And she could be in this conflicted
Yeah.
where she's like, I want to say yes because my heart wants me to say yes. But he also just told me nothing is ever going to come of this. I'm like falling for this guy and nothing is ever going to come of this. And she can, of course, be like, well, I know nothing's going to come of this just because we have totally different values. But what about that money he gave to the camp? Did he just give it for this trip? Is that all it meant? Or did part of him think about the difference it would make?
Right. Yeah.
Because I think when she says that, like, some of these, like, she needs to say, like, we only have, me and my friend as camp counselors. And for some of these kids, it's the only place they have to go after school. For some of these kids, it's the only meal they're going to get after school. Like, she can lay out why it's so important to her. And so then, yeah, when he does give the money, he's even saying to himself, I'm just doing it so she can go on a trip with me. But in reality, he's like, oh shit, like these kids really need it?
Yeah. So then if she's disappointed, maybe she goes back. And then I feel like something needs to happen to instigate. Maybe her dad can like ask her like where they've been or where she's been.
What if the dad just all the way finds out? Like, that's super dark momenty?
Yeah. Maybe he's like sitting at the dining room table when she walks back.
Oh, I hate that. You know what I mean? Like when you get home late and your dad's just like, oh,
Yeah.
worst, worst. But like it's so much
Yeah.
worse now because she's an adult. This shouldn't even be happening. And he's not just mad that she missed curfew. He's like mad that she like went out of town with his best friend
Right. I can figure out a way to like,
that he can find out.
we can
Yeah.
figure out a way to like, yeah, like that sort of like doesn't really matter, I guess.
We could have planted like a villain who, the thing is, it could be well meaning too. It could be a little bit villainous.
Right.
But could also be well-meaning. Like they obviously run in the same circle. Some of his stockbroker friends are probably in his club, which means like word can get around. And someone may go to him under the auspice of like, I'm trying to help you. Your daughter is being taken advantage of.
Yeah. And then, okay, so he knows. I almost feel like he needs to be like, the hero needs to say, like, this needs to stay casual for now. But in
Mhm.
his mind, it's just because he wants to like talk to her dad, maybe.
Mm. Yeah, he
And
could be
like,
like I think he would demand exclusivity, but he can definitely still imply to her that it's supposed to be casual. Like, isn't this
right.
just like nice and convenient for us? And like we don't have to get tested with other people. Like, just that's the only
Mhm.
reason why we're being exclusive. And then her dad can really push on those buttons and say, like, did he tell you that he is serious about you? Like, first of all, he's this much older.
Right.
He's done all this life stuff. The father can, oh, the other thing is oh, this already hurt my heart just to think it. But the father will have no understanding of who she is. You know what I mean? He can't because his values are so different. And he may not actually have like respect for what she's doing and her job and stuff like that. And
Right.
he may not even understand that she's living in this house to create a relationship with him. And he could just like to really like twist the knife. It could be like, you think he cares about you? Like, has he made any promises? And she'll have to admit out loud, like, no, he hasn't. And he'll be like, yeah, because he's in a completely different place in his life than you. He is established. He is successful. He is like stable. And you are just like living with me because you don't make enough money at your silly little camp to have your own place.
Yeah.
It would just be the worst, right? She'd get slammed and like,
It needs to be like super condescending.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the worst.
Just like you're like just like a plaything for him. Like it would never be serious because
And he can even say like, men like him, whatever. And she's going to be like, don't you mean men like you? Is that how you treat women? I think it is because mom was like stuck in small town and you were just here working.
right.
And so it gets to the heart of like their relationship too.
Yeah. And also highlights the class difference.
The class difference.
Yeah, she's gonna have major daddy issues. So the dad turns into the villain.
That is so uncool. So at some point, I feel like the dad and the hero are going to have to meet up about this. I don't know who's going to.
Yeah, there needs to maybe be like a separate
like the next
point
scene.
of view. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Maybe the hero just had his casual, what he claims is casual fling, and he comes back to his office. He's just doing his typing, his very serious typing, and the father storms in, and he's like, "You touched my little girl." He just says it just
Yeah.
like, and it's super hard, and it like hits at the heart of the hero. He like didn't know it was coming, right? Like no one warned him that this is
Right.
happening. I think in that moment, we could see the dad be angry, but also a little bit caring. So she doesn't have to like cut him off it completely. I mean, listen, I'm all for a dad being cut off completely if that's what he deserves. But I'm saying it could be that he
Right.
doesn't care about her. And that was partly why he was so harsh on her because he's so upset
Yeah.
there for her. And maybe she's turning to guys like him because, you know, like he's just imagining he's blaming himself. And plus it's his friend. So of course he would blame himself, you know? And we get to see that
Right.
in the hero's point of view, even if the heroine is still really sad and she doesn't know it yet.
Right. And then I think he needs to like call her and just be like, I'm on my way. We need to talk about this. And she's just like, no, like this is not a good idea. And she doesn't, it's just like, I guess maybe a little bit of miscommunication trope, which does annoy me in some books. Not always. Like it makes sense sometimes.
Like one chapter. And this one chapter,
Yeah.
while both at their lowest, they're not going to be high communicators.
Right. And he's just like, fine, I understand. That doesn't feel right either. No.
No, I was like, I feel like that's too anticlimactic. Like, I feel like maybe at this point, maybe it's one of those things where, you know how when you have to talk something out and then it becomes clear? What if like maybe he like takes a few punches from the dad because he's like, you know what, I deserve that. And then the worse the dad describes it, like the dad's going to be saying, you used her, you took advantage of her, you led her on, you don't care about her. Like the dad's just going to be making all these accusations.
Yeah.
And maybe at some point he's like, all right, fair. You know, like you should be able to punch me in the face because I like touched your little girl or whatever. But then at some point he's like, you know what? Actually, it's not true that I don't care about her or that I just used her. I mean, first of all, like, let's put aside the fact that she's a grown adult, but also I actually super like her. In fact, I think I love her. Like he can have that realization there with the dad.
Right.
And be like, I have to go.
That's smart.
And the dad's like, are you serious right now? We're just having this really important argument. And he's like, no, I really have to go. You can punch me later again. And then he goes to go after her.
Yeah, I like that. Because I feel like it resolves the issues with the dad too, because the dad is like, the readers will know the dad is not just thinking that it's casual. And he like has seen action from his friend.
Yes.
Okay.
So now we just need like the grand gesture, but where is it going to be? So in terms of places, oh, what if it's her camp? What if he gets the camp people involved? Which like, honestly, I'm just gonna say, I understand it's like a little bit ethically questionable to get the kids involved in something like this, but I just think what if he had them like throw a party for her or something like that? You know what I mean? Not like a
Yeah.
party, hey, your boyfriend wants to get back together with you, but just like an appreciation party or something like that that made everyone really happy.
Yeah, like maybe it's like counselor of the month or something. And she's been like counselor of the month for the last like 4 months straight or something like that. And he's just like, let's throw a party to celebrate. And maybe
It could also be like we have done absolutely nothing regarding this being in the winter, but what if like it's a Christmas party and he gets to play Santa and all the kids get presents, you know?
oh, okay. There we go. I like that a lot. That's sweet. Oh,
I
swoon.
know. We just made a Christmas romance. We were like, oh, come
I
on,
guess,
entire thing, Christmas romance.
yeah. Change the time of year. And it could be somewhere like, San Diego, so it's not cold. Or it could be cold. Snow is
It
nice.
could be cold. I mean, it's a real fantasy for me when I live in a cold place because I literally live in Texas and I'm like, it's too cold. I don't know how I'm going to survive the winter. It's just, I need to live like on the equator.
Yeah. You're the opposite of me. I love cold.
Oh my
Like
God.
we moved from Los Angeles to England. And I'm like, I get to hibernate now.
Oh my God.
So
No. Yeah. I was like, what do I have to wear socks today? This is ridiculous.
that's so funny.
Okay. So it's Christmas. And he can, also it's a little Scrooge like, right? He discovers the meaning of giving anonymously because it's not like
Right.
his club can get any credit for this, but like giving to kids and people who need it and sees the true spirit of Christmas.
Yes. I love that this just like evolved into a Christmas romance. Amazing. Because it does make sense. Like just like a Christmas BDSM
Yeah,
dad's best friend romance.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I actually don't know how common it is as a trope. Should be common, but I actually can't think of that many examples. But it did happen in Holiday Heat by Noel Adams, where
Okay.
the hero dresses as Santa at the end, and it's a surprise that she isn't expecting.
Okay.
In that case, it's just at a resort. But like in this case, it's going to be at her camp. So it's all the kids that she
Right.
loves, be getting presents. And I don't know, he could be really fancy too and like get with her friend and actually get them things that are specific to them. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say, like, maybe they all made lists and she's just like, it's sad because they're never gonna get like even one of these things. And he just buys them like everything on like every list.
And yeah, I'm like, so the little girl who's like interested in photos is like, oh my God, I just got a camera, and it just makes it way more meaningful than like just getting toys. It shows like he really put work into it
Right.
and sees them as individuals and everything.
Yeah. Oh,
I know. I like follow this place, One Simple Wish on Instagram. Have you ever seen it?
sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it's like a site where kids who are in foster care can list things that they need. And it's so hard because like I'll pick things out and give things, but then like I can't just give everything and I hate that, Yeah. And I do
I'll
like
look into that.
it's a really cool place to follow, I think. And I really like that they do respect the kids enough to say, you can ask for something, even if it feels a little extravagant or a little bit extra. Cause like there's sometimes this idea that you have to, like, if you are, in poverty, you're just supposed to be grateful that you have food. You know what I mean? As
Right.
opposed to being like, no, I want to go with my school trip to Washington, D.C., or I want a tablet so I can do my digital art, or, like these are things that like
Right.
kids can have regularly. I mean, maybe not all kids have all the things, but like even like Nike Jordans, and sometimes like the site will get pushback. Like, does this kid really like need Jordans? And they're like, well, no, he doesn't need them. But the idea is that we want them to be able to dream about things that are not just survival. This
Right.
ended up being a little bit more,
Yeah.
but anyway.
No. It's so true though. I love when authors do. I think Taryn Fisher does like a Giving Tuesday or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
Giving Monday or something day of the week. I
Mhm.
love doing those. I like when people like. I think the Smut Head did something last year where it was like Christmas, where people listed like which books they wanted, I just like went down that list and I was just like, gift,
Mhm.
gift, gift. It's so much fun.
It is. I think Mandy Beck was partnering with some kind of shelter and had done that. And the list was empty. And people were like, hey, the list is empty. Like, we want to give more. I think the romance community is so giving.
Yeah,
So
they
I
really
love
are. Yeah.
Okay. So he is Santa. He's like, ho, 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 giving out presents. And then he catches a break, right? Like, they're like, guys, Santa needs a break. And then he can go and talk to her and be like, listen, all that stuff I said to you about keeping it casual, that was bullshit. I have been obsessed with you basically since I met you and like trying to hold myself back, claimed to myself that it was for your own good. But in reality, it's because I think I was afraid, like that you were just too young and too beautiful. And the whole world is ahead of you. You can have anything you want. And I didn't think I was good enough. And I like when they're like, and I know I'm still not good enough, but actually, I'm still just going to ask for you because I can't live without you.
Yeah. Boom. Grand gesture. Yeah, no, that's perfect. And she can even push back a little bit. Not, not just since she's like not like a doormat, like, but just sort of be like, like I wanted you too. Like I feel like it was pretty obvious and I was like denying it also, but I think her acknowledging the class difference.
Yeah, yeah. Like she
You
can
can
be
say
like,
something like I learned something too. Like she needs to like be like, well, thank you, I love you, but I learned something too.
I
I,
like
I, my brain is now like short. It's like shorting out. And
no
what is the
completely.
word?
Yeah, she can be like, when I looked at you, I just thought there was nothing there, that you were all about the money. And even the BDSM club just felt like more like hedonism. She would say, I learned that I can have pleasure and I can even have luxury and nice things. And I don't have to get rid of all of that just because I care about this cause. And you've shown me that.
I
And part of me denying myself pleasure was denying myself any kind of life, anything that was just for me. And you are just for
mhm,
me because I want you. And it's just as simple as that.
yeah. Oh, I love that. The epilogue should be her bringing him to meet her mom in the small town,
Mhm.
maybe like
Though
a year later. And then I feel like,
I really want him to pull
oh,
out a present just for her. And it either needs to be like an engagement ring or just like a dirty gift.
mm.
I don't know which way we want to go on that.
My mind immediately like went to like a butt plug.
I literally,
It's like
I
it's
literally
11:20 now, so I feel like it's just the unhinged is coming out.
That's
So
what I told you. I love the unhinged. That's what we're gonna do because they can both be, I mean, with their dialogue, it can be made clear. Neither of them, she would not be receptive to like a wedding offer now anyway. So he's like,
right.
and the box is not gonna be shaped like a ring. So it's not like she's gonna actually think it's a ring as she's opening it. It's just gonna be like a big box. She's gonna be like, what on earth? And she opens it and it's
Or maybe it's like one of those vibrators you can control from like afar.
yeah. It would have to be, we'd have to seed it. It would be something they have talked about. You know what I mean? That has
Yes.
been a secret fantasy of hers,
Right.
and he's giving it to her.
Maybe it has like a little like again, going back to the plug, it has like a little jewel on it. So it's like a ring, but not a ring.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah, I know. I like that because that emphasizes like the class again, but how she's accepting it now.
yeah.
Okay,
But
going back to what you're saying, the epilogue. He goes and meets the mom. What does he think? What does the mom think?
he's from the small town, right? No, did we establish that or
He did start like that. We didn't lay it heavy into the foundation, so it doesn't matter hugely if we want to take it back out.
I think it doesn't really make
I
sense
think
because why would her dad know someone from the
she was wearing those itty bitty shorts, so he couldn't already know her. Okay, he's
yeah.
he's from somewhere else. He's arriving at the small town, and the mom. I think the mom is going to be a little bit skeptical. I mean, maybe she's come a certain ways because of how much time has passed, but she's going to have some nerves about the fact that like I married this rich guy and it turned out poorly. Now my daughter is going to be with his best friend who's just like him.
Mm-hmm.
They're friends. Like she's not going to be like completely happy immediately. So there can be
Right. Or
nerves.
maybe they never got married, her parents.
Mhm.
And so she's just like, how do I know you're not going to like follow in my footsteps and just like get knocked up and have him leave? And that's when he can like propose.
Yeah. I like her even saying it to him. And maybe like it's like the next holiday or something, right?
I was
Because
going to say the next Christmas.
it's the next Christmas. They've been dating a year. So she's had some time to get used to this idea. Maybe she's even met him already. But he's there for this family Christmas in a small town. And in a quiet moment, the mom can kind of look away and he's like, oh, so and so, like, you don't trust me completely. And she's like, listen, I was burned by so and so, and I just don't want that to happen to my daughter. And he can be like, I would never do that. And then when she comes back in the room, she's like, oh, I found one more present. And that one is the size of a ring box. And she opens it and
Right.
it's a ring. And it's got like, ooh, what if like her favorite color is pink? And like the little jewel that was on the butt plug is pink. And then like he gives her a pink diamond.
I love that. There is a jewel that's pink. I'm not a ruby, but
I think there might be a pink amethyst, maybe. I don't know.
maybe.
I feel like diamonds can be pink. I don't know. I really love diamonds that are colors, but the only ones I'm sure exist are like
Topaz. I don't
the
know. I can't think of a pink one.
black diamonds.
Mm.
She's like a black diamond girl. She could be a yellow diamond girl because she's like camp counselor, like cutesy.
Yeah, I can see that. We can build in the yellow like kind of thing into. So then
Yeah,
we can
it could
fold
be
in.
for sure. Like the
Yeah.
camp colors are yellow. Like her t-shirt that she wears there is yellow. Oh my God, that's a little much. But I do like things to be a little much. So like that's not a complaint.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the epilogue. And what would the title be?
I don't know. I used to really hate the specific titles, but I read, God, I forget the author. It was in the top 100 she has books that are in the top 100 all the time, but it's like, the millionaire doctor, baby daddy.
Oh yeah. Trophy.
The lumberjack's secret alpha baby.
Right. Like father's best friend is basically like, it's the trope.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do like it's like very clear what you're getting, but
if we're going to make it a Christmas one, I guess it has to be play on Christmas. So
we do have the BDSM element. I don't know if we want to do.
I was going to say like deck the something, but I feel like deck the balls has already been taken. And that's just like I'm really bad at titling. I feel like I have like a list of books that have titles and I just go down that list and I don't
like
deviate from it.
Any Christmas song title works,
Yeah.
Maybe. Like Deck the Halls. Like you don't even have to play on words with it, you know what I mean? It's like you can put it in the subtitle. Like Deck the Halls, a BDSM, age gap, father's best friend romance. Perfect. You know exactly what you're getting.
Yes. Yeah, because I feel like I'd have to think on that and like maybe like look up song titles and see because there may be something that would maybe be applicable to one of the tropes and or the camp or the city or something.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go with Deck the Halls as the placeholder. We would think about it more. But I do have one more question to ask you before I can let you go to bed.
Okay.
That is, if readers love Deck the Halls, then what book of yours should they start with?
Probably Pay Tell, only because it does have BDSM. There's a little bit of an age gap. It's brother's best friend, not dad's best friend.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I feel like some of the themes are similar, like the punishment of like you're here now in your mind, so we're going to like go all out now and just like be ready, sort of.
I love it. So yeah, we're gonna put the links to Pray Tell inside the show notes, so everyone will be able to find them. Okay. Thank you so much, Amanda, for coming. I had a great time.
Thank you for having me, Skye. It was so fun.
Thank you so much for listening to Storytime with Skye. I hope you enjoyed the story we crafted this week. Please subscribe so you don't miss a new episode, and leave a review so that other listeners can find our show. We always put links for any books we discuss, as well as books by the guest author, in the show notes, so you can definitely find something new to read. And if you want to help choose our romance adventure, be sure to join our Facebook group, Storytime with Skye. That's where we gather suggestions and poll our readers, just like you, to find out what our next story will be. Thank you for being part of the story.
Welcome to the story.